Good evening, everyone. Welcome to New Haven Unified School Board, Board of Education, meeting October 1st, 2019. The board will now convene to open session and report out from the closed session. Relative to items 3.1 and 3.4, no action was taken, therefore nothing to report. Moving on to 5.1, Pledge of Allegiance. May I have our student board member lead us into a Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Here. Thank you. May I have a motion and a second to approve tonight's agenda?
So move.
I'm second.
Did you get the second, Ms. Lori? Thank you. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Moving on to the next item, which is a public hearing. We will now convene a public hearing to receive public testimony concerning proposed trustee voting area plans associated with the district's transition to a by-trustee area election system. Under California Election Code Section 10010, the board must hold at least 2 public hearings prior to holding a public hearing to adopt a final trustee voting area plan. We have F3 for a short presentation.
Good evening, trustees, cabinet, staff, community members. I'm John Salt with F3, along with Andrew Chittapong of Cooperative Strategies. You're probably used to us by now. We've been here quite frequently, and this will probably be the last time that you'll see us. This is the final step in the district's map or election transition process. And so we'll go through the PowerPoint, go through the map options, and then after the public hearing, after folks can comment one final time, the board will ultimately make a decision. You've all heard this before, but just in case there's anyone here who hasn't and would like to comment, CVRA prohibits at-large elections if that system prohibits or impairs the ability of protected classes to influence the outcome of an election. The only safe harbor from a CVRA claim is the transition to by-trustee area elections, where a board member is elected from each trustee area only by the voters of that area. Doesn't affect anybody's term. All trustees who are currently elected serve out their full term. So the current stage, and then ultimately we're going to change stages in a few minutes here, is the map drawing stage, and I'll hand it to the demographer to talk about that.
Thank you. So the current stage is we do have to use the 2010 census data when we're drawing these areas. Each area must be equal size in population as in practicable, and they shall be equal in population to the best of our ability, and we do have a 10% percent deviation from the smallest area and the largest area. Some more criteria: it has to comply with the U.S. Constitution, population equality to the best of our ability, comply with the Federal Voting Rights Act, be geographically contiguous, keep local communities of interest together, be geographically compact, and cannot favor or discriminate against an incumbent or a political candidate.
So as we've mentioned, this has been a long road, and tonight is the final part of this process.
So on the screen we have the total population and demographic breakdown for New Haven Unified. On the left side of the screen you can see a geographic profile with the neighboring cities and cities that encompass the school district, just for your reference. On the table on the right you can see the total population and demographic breakdown. So the total population for the school district is about 75,000 people. If you divide that by 5 for each of the board member, when we divide these areas, each area is going to contain about 15,000 people. With 10% variance, each area is going to contain about 1,500 plus or minus in each area. So the demographic breakdown for the Hispanic Latino population is about 25%. The white population is about 15%. African American at 6.21%. And the largest protected class is the Asian population at 47.6%, and so on and so forth. We do have the population of those who are 18 years and older on the next column, and that number comes out to be 56,827, along with their demographic breakdown. But we're really going to focus more on the citizens voting age population. So this is your CVAP, or your eligible voters. On the left, we have the Asian eligible voters within the New Haven Unified School District, in lighter colors representing less concentrated areas of the Asian citizens voting age population, darker areas meaning higher concentration for the citizens voting age population. And it looks like the west side of the 880 freeway is where we see that concentration for the Asian population. So the citizens voting age population for the total school district, your eligible voters, it's 51,824 with a demographic breakdown, the Hispanic Latino being at 20%, the white population also being about 20%, African American about a little over 6%, and the largest being the Asian population at 48.65%, and so on and so forth. You can see here the same table with the different map, and this is showing the Hispanic Latino citizens voting age population, and it looks like the concentration is between Central Avenue, Whipple Road, and Dakota Road in central of the district. And then I'm going to go over the layout of each map and talk about how everything is symbolized. So when we're drawing these areas, we are using census blocks, and these are the essentially the Lego pieces that make up the school district. They come in all different shapes and sizes. They're the smallest geographic feature provided by the census. So you might not see some clean lines, and that could just be because of the way the census blocks are shaped. At the top of the map, top left, you can see the demographic breakdown for each trustee area. That includes total population, the variance, populations of 18 years and older, as well as the citizens voting age population, and the total population within each area. The legend contains where your board members live, as well as the elementary, middle school, and high school in each area. You can see is represented by a color, and this is going to be the same throughout each scenario. So area 1 is going to be yellow, area 2 is going to be green, area 3 is red, 4 is blue, and area 5 is purple.
And if this ends up being the map that the board picks, you can see in the bottom right of the screen, there are years next to each trustee area. And if you look at essentially where the trustees live on the map, you'll notice that for the 2020 election, with 3 seats open, the 3 seats that would be open should this map be picked would be areas 1 yellow, 2 green, and 3 red. Because areas 4 and 5, the blue and purple, both have trustees in them who have term until 2022, so they can't have an election in the area in 2020 since there already is a trustee living there.
So then we're going to just talk about how each area is divided based on the trustee area. So area 1, we pretty much took all of Dakota Road and stayed east of that for the first area, equal population following that geographic feature, which was really nice. Area 2 in green, you have following Mission Boulevard and Dakota Road, as well as staying just below Whipple. So you'll notice in each scenario, areas 1 and 2 are going to be relatively the same, just because area 2, as I will get into more detail, it does give us a majority area for the Hispanic Latino community. So we couldn't do too many variations with that green area. So most of the variations are going to be in areas 3, 4, and 5 in each scenario. So area 3, we stayed west of the 880 on the northern part, and then took and followed the creek where the area 2 in green is. Area 4 in blue stayed up north of Dyer Street, as well as west of the 880 freeway. And then for the purple area, area 5, we just took that southern part as its own area, which contained the highest concentration for the Asian citizens voting age population. As you can see here in these wall of numbers, we're just going to highlight a couple of areas. So the first scenario, the Hispanic Latino, gives us one area with a majority for the Hispanic Latino being over 50%, 2 areas for the African American in areas 1 and 2, and then 2 areas for the Asian population in areas 4 and 5.
And the green just signifies increased influence based on the district average. So I think the district average for the African American population was about 6%, and so a smidge more in areas 1 and 2, whereas the Hispanic Latino population was about 20% by citizen voting age, and we get that all the way up to over 50. And the Asian population was just shy of 50, and you have one area over 60 and another one over 65.
And here is scenario 2 with the same layout almost as scenario 1. So trustee area 1 in yellow. The only difference here is that we're excluding the Conley Carbaya High School and going just inward at the very bottom of James Logan High School. And then area 2, including that high school, but pretty much staying the same as the previous scenario. Area 3, red, probably the most major difference, staying south of Smith Street and going into the community where Alvarado Boulevard and Ryder Street intersect. The very bottom. Area 4, taking that whole business area up north. And then area 5, taking that southern portion as well.
In terms of election sequencing, this map is a little bit more open because Area 5, the purple area, has 2 trustees whose terms expire in 2022. Obviously, that area will not be open for election in 2020, but the board has choice of 3 of the other 4 to be open for election in 2020 when passing the resolution later, if this is the map that's adopted.
So this is slightly different, where we have more increased influence. Same majority area for the Hispanic Latino community in area 2. We have 4 areas this time for the African communities in areas 1, 2, 3, and 4, as opposed to 2 in the previous scenario. And then we also have 3 areas in trustee areas 3 and 4 and 5 of increased influence, as opposed to 2 in the previous scenario. This brings us to scenario 3. Areas 1 and 2 are relatively the same from scenario 1. Area 3 taking that whole central part of the school district. Area 4, that northwestern side. And area 5, we keep same layout as the southern western part of the school district.
And similar to map 1, should this be the map that the board picks, the sequencing it sort of works out for itself. It would be 1 yellow, 2 green, and 3 red would be open for election in 2020, with area 4, the blue area, and area 5, the purple area, being up for election in 2022.
So in scenario 3, we have 2 areas for the Hispanic Latino community, areas 2 and 3 with increased influence. And then 2 areas for the African American with about 1 percentage point increase, and then 2 areas for the Asian population in areas 4 and 5 with about 10 and 15% increase voting power.
And so at some of the public meetings and the public hearings, there was some feedback that some folks liked the green area, area 2, from map 2, but wanted to see that imputed onto map 3. So we've created 3A as an option, and essentially it's the exact same thing as 3, except this area in green right here where my marker is used to be yellow, and this area right here, this little square, used to be green. And so we've swapped those out to kind of create this 3A. So it's the same as 3, but with this area traded for this area in yellow.
And pretty much the exact same demographic breakdown as scenario 3, with the slight differences in areas 2 and 1, with about 1 percentage point differences between scenarios 3 and 3A.
So for the public hearing, last opportunity for which maps folks like best or what they like or don't like about each map. And we'll stand by for questions.
Thank you. So as part of this public hearing, members of the public may submit comments on the establishment of voting area boundaries for the new trustee voting areas that will be established as part of the district's transition from an at-large election system to a by-trustee area election system. So speakers will have 3 minutes to make any comments on this matter and this matter only, and it looks like we have received 1 person who wishes to address this subject during the public hearing.
Yep, Gavin, it's all yours.
Good evening. If you could just indulge me, I do want to just mention, thank you, John, for meeting with Joe Angeles and Pace and I. We met earlier last week about Me Too's, and appreciate you hearing our concerns, and so I just want to say that. So the question that I have, actually, I think, if I understand the presentation well, it actually comes from a question that a member had that isn't here tonight, so I wanted to, so it has to do with if a district has 2 trustees in it and 1 trustee is only up for reelection. The only scenario that I see where there was a situation where, I think it was in scenario 2, where I happen to live in the green area by Hillview Crest, and so currently there's no representative there. So if I heard the presentation right, I don't know if you guys can respond to these questions, that because Linda and Sarabjit are in the same area, and that they don't have an election until 2022. One of them would then basically sit as the green trustee?
No.
Or, because whenever I was looking at the election, it just says that in the green area, that in the second scenario, they wouldn't have an election until 2022, so there wouldn't be anyone sitting in that area, right, until 2022, is that right?
Finish your time, I'll answer afterwards. I'll answer the question.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, anyway, so that was just, so that was the question, I think, is the main gist of the question that the member had was, if that situation happened, could there be more than 5 trustees, or is that the maximum while people are serving out the term? And then the other thing is I just want to say that I do like the 3A from a resident standpoint, because I do think that the people across the Mission by Conley Carabello are much more in line with the community across the street by Hillview Crest. But then I guess I don't really know the community down by Royal Ann. Or no, is that Niles? Niles. Yeah, so that got cut out. Okay, anyway, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can probably address that question if you can.
Yeah, just.
Did that make sense?
It did. Thank you. A couple quick clarifications. There will never be more than 5 trustees. So, for example, looking at 3A, just because it's on the board now, as you can see in Area 3, there are 2 trustees who live in that area, but both of them have terms that expire at the same time. So should the board ultimately choose this map option, and it's hypothetical just because it's up here, as you can see, the yellow, green, and red would be open for election in 2020. That would mean that there would be 3 trustees, 1 coming out of each of those areas, and then the other 2 are obviously filled. It's less of an issue on this map. In map 2, the question stems from, well, what happens for the green area? And the answer is there just wouldn't, well, the board has the ability to pick 1, 2, 3, or 4. 3 of those will be up for election if this is the map option. And so in one of those areas, there won't be a trustee elected. It'll be an open area, but all board members still represent the entire district. There'll be an open area that won't be filled until 2022.
Thank you. All right, thank you all. Thank you for your comments, actually. So the public hearing to receive public testimony concerning proposed trustee voting area plan is now closed. So moving on to the presentations, recognition, and the actions, 7.2, the adoption of the resolution, which we will be doing. But before I have you guys make a motion and a second on any of the proposed options, I would like for us to engage in a discussion. So as you know, that the district previously initiated a transition from an at-large election to a by-trustee area election system. So part of the process, which was a lengthy process, was to complete this transition, including the section and adoption of a final trustee area map. In advance of the adoption, a final plan, the district was required to, and it did seek public input on the proposed trustee area plans. In addition to tonight's public hearing, prior to the release of draft map options, the district held public hearings on May 22nd, 2019, May 28th, 2019, to solicit feedback in advance of the map preparation by the district's demographer and by the community. So following the release of the draft map options, the district previously held public hearings at the governing board meetings on September 3rd, 2019, September 17th, and today as of October 1st. The district also held community meetings at its middle school on September 4th and September 5th to solicit additional community input. So in today's meeting, the governing board will consider and vote to adopt a resolution and select a final trustee area map. So the matter is now put before the governing board to propose a resolution, adopt the proposed resolution, and to select a final trustee area plan. So I'll open it up for us to discuss, and I think it'd be best if we go by the sequential scenarios, so that way there isn't a favoritism to one per se. So if it's, I think I would ask us to have a discussion around each of the maps, starting with scenario 1. So scenario 1 being where trustee area 1, trustee area 2, and trustee area 3 are up for re-election 2020. And then trustee area 4 and 5 will be up for election in 2022.
I think as we kind of delve into this conversation, it's important whenever we're making a decision that has a lot of different variables and a lot of different pros and cons. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good practice to identify kind of some principles or some guiding points to help the decision. Just from my standpoint, before we delve into the specific map, I think that first and foremost, it has to comply with CVRA and to ensure that all the protected populations are represented. And it's fair to say that all of these maps do that.
Done a good job.
The other considerations that I think would be, at least from my own perspective, would be that the choice ensures fair representation between the east side of Union City and the west side of Union City. And related to that, it would be a good idea if we start kind of blurring the lines between east and west, so that some of the old held value, or the old held attitudes about the east side or the west side getting more or less than the other is somewhat mitigated. And in the spirit of that, maybe a map that has the trustee areas that cover multiple school sites, so you don't have like one trustee that's just handling one school site. Those are some of the guiding principles that I would use, at least for how I would approach this decision.
Yeah, I couldn't actually agree with you more. So I think just since this is open for discussion for all of us to jump in, I too agree that either whether it's a perception, whether it's a reality, whether it's both, that there is that difference between the east and the west. First of all, the demographers and you guys have done a wonderful job of having a very clear, concise areas, the districts. They have similar, at least, give or take 5% the population in each of the districts. So to me, when we're looking at all three of them, it gives me a clear indication as to how the map is laid out. So it's not. It looks pretty clean in my mind, at least. To go back to my point of the east and the west, I think it's been there a long time. If we have an opportunity, it would be not to perpetuate that same perception, that reality, or whatever you want to call it. If we are going to be making a very physical division to some extent to our boundaries.
Yeah.
I don't know if other members have any comments before we even, delve into scenario 1 as is.
Yeah, I have a question. I have a comments. I'm looking for those maps, and no matter there's a 1 and a 3 and a 3A, and it seems like it divided the Union City and our school district at the east and the west were separate. I want to find some things and what we mingle together. Even we have the elections in the different years, like 2020, 2022, and like now, and it's very separated, to east versus to west, and I don't think this is good. Number one. Number two, and I'm looking for the 3 or 4 maps, and they did a pretty good job, and I'm looking for the variance, and actually, the map 2 is much smaller for the variance. And also, I'm looking very, very deep and see, and all the maps, except the map 2, they created too many and supermajority. For instance, and like the map 1, map 3, 3A, they are not just one and a supermajority for the Latino community. They also have 2 to 3 Asian and supermajority, pretty much because it's supermajority. But like the map 2 and pretty even. And we only have one supermajority for the Latino community and one supermajority for the Asian. Yeah. So I think more equal for the people to have opportunities. Yeah, that's my comments.
Okay, thank you.
May I add
Yes.
to that? I hear what you've said. The only thing I'm looking at is if our goal is to give the protected group, and in this case, the green part, the map on scenario 2 does not give them the opportunity to have a representative until 2022, where the rest would.
So yes, that is correct. That is correct the way it is, but that's if it gets chosen.
Right.
So
Yes.
even map 2,
Right.
you have that scenario where
Right.
you could essentially put someone in that for the 2020
Right, I just
election.
want to point that out.
But I consider if we choose the scenario 2, there's always have a one and the district have a temporary no representative until 2022,
So
no
that-
matter how we choose.
That brings back to the question that was asked, I think, the question that one of our speakers asked, if if we choose 2, what would happen with the protected class, which is what we're talking about right now, which is the green part, until they won't be having their representative until 2022.
My understanding, at least as the scenarios that I see, is if we do choose map 2, we then have a
We do.
specified set of sequencing that we'd have to figure out.
Right.
And what I have before me is that trustee areas 1, 2, which is the green one, and 3, or 1,
And
2, and
4.
4, or 1, 3, and 4, or 2, 3, and 4. In that instance, area 2 is scheduled for 2020 in 1, 2, in 3 of those 4 scenarios.
Wait a minute, area 2. I see, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no matter what, and there's always, and if the scenario 2 be selected, they always have a one district and will have a one empty and temporary until the 2022.
That's correct. Do you have anything to add, anyone else?
I don't have any additional comments. All of my questions, they were answered when we were going through the process. And also, the options with all of the maps we have, I'm glad that we were able to carve out a map for our minority Spanish from the Maldives kind of, request in all these 3 maps. That's good part. And to me, each one of them, 1 and 3, they're same, almost same, So, so it will be between 2 and one of those maps. So I have been thinking about a lot of factors that how should we proceed. We do have one opportunity to address the long-held notion that, west side, east side, we have once in a lifetime opportunity to address that. But at the same time, area 2 has to wait until 2022. So I have been weighing those things in my mind so far. That's where is my thinking.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
good, thank you. So, and you pointed out that scenario 1 and scenario 3 and 3A essentially are very much similar. So to me, scenario 3 doesn't really play into factor I'm looking at more of scenario 1, 2, and 3A. That's the way I have been kind of just looking at these maps, just because, based on some of the feedback we got, 3A was produced. So those are essentially the 3 maps that I'm looking at when I'm going to be making my decision. And I don't know if you guys have anything holding you on, or if you feel the need to speak on 3.
I'm looking at 1 and 3 right now when I make my decision.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Okay, I have an answer for the 2 and scenario, as just Gavin mentioned, and he more likely the area in the corner, the county high school, and will be connected with the corridor. That's only the 3A and the scenario 2, and meet the request.
Okay, well, I don't have anything further to discuss personally, so I don't know if you guys have anything else you may want to add. To me, like I had mentioned before, that long-held notion of the east and west, I think now is the time to put that to rest. To me, having the clear division between the 880, having 2 members on the other side and then 3 on this side, it just perpetuates the same notion that, there's that disparity, there's, enrollment issues and revenue issues and so on and so forth. So if we're going to be making some hard decisions about going 2 districts and dividing the city into 5 districts, then in my mind, I would like there to be some changes from how things have been done in the past.
And I think scenario 1 could help address that as well, that issue. But at the end of the day, whoever is representing the districts will work together in making sure that everything is equitable. It doesn't have to be on who they're representing. At the end of the day, the people sitting at the table will make sure that they are going to be representing the people that they're representing, and we'll all make sure that whatever we do is equitable for everybody else.
And I think that's why it's a little difficult to absorb this when you're breaking the city into 5 and then you're really representing only a portion of that city, and it's almost like, okay, do I only represent that area? In my mind, I don't think that's justice, right? I mean, we were elected to serve all our students, and at one point, now we have to make the decision, but I hope, as to your point, no one feels that they only have to
Right.
speak for just their part of the
Area.
city and not for the rest of the city, rest of the students in our city. Yes, Ms. Tina.
Yeah, along the same comments. It was mentioned, and it's part of the law, that regardless you get elected from a special or smaller district, but when you get to serve, when you get elected, you have to serve all of the student population from all districts. So in my mind, we don't have any problem serving all students, especially we were elected, and all 3 of you, you were also elected at large also. So we have that experience in our mind to
Right, I mean, I
represent
think
all
it's not just
students.
for us either, and hopefully this message gets reiterated to the individuals that will come after us and so on and so forth, that, this does not just allow you to only speak for your own district. I hope that, this message would be loud and clear every time that we are representing all students at all cost. And I just lost my screen. Okay, well, I don't know if you guys have any more thoughts, comments to add. If not, then I would like to open it up for one of you guys to make a motion in a second.
I will make a motion. I move to adopt the resolution 013-1920 for approval with the map scenario 2, as the district adopt the trustee area plan with the trustee area 1, 3, and 4 scheduled for elections in November 2020, and the trustee area 2 and 5 scheduled for election in November 2022.
Okay.
I think the way we have to vote, I believe we have to go through the map 1 and 3 first, and if that motion doesn't, no?
No.
Okay.
No, so
Okay,
the
got it.
motion on the table is for map 2,
Okay,
with the sequencing being trustee areas 1, 3, and 4 scheduled for election 2020, and trustee areas 2 and 5 scheduled for election in November 2022. So that's the motion on the table. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
no.
Roll call, please.
Abstain.
Aye.
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 No.
Aye. Thank you. All right, moving on to the next item, information, Mandarin Dual Language Immersion Program. Scott.
Good evening, President Carr, members of the board, Superintendent Thompson. Tonight, we'd like to present information in terms of a proposed dual immersion program for Mandarin, and I'd like to introduce Wee Stevens, the K-12 Director for Instruction.
Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Thompson, and President Kaur. I'm here tonight to present a possibility of Mandarin dual immersion. When we launched on our Spanish dual immersion two-way in the year of 2018 and 19, the idea was from public interest and community interest that we explore other language pathways. So tonight I'm here to present more information about the additional language pathway for the board to consider. Okay. So I want to start with a Global Initiative 2030. Our state superintendent in 2018 charged our districts to explore language programs for our students to produce multilingual global leaders. And based on the job outlook in our community, that's one great pathway is through dual language immersion. And the goal of this particular initiative is to, by 2030, to provide students the opportunity to be proficient in 2 or more languages, okay, to support them in college and career, and also life readiness. So the projection as we look at this particular initiative in the state of California, we're looking at really to increase the dual language programs up to 1,500 across the state. Currently, we're right under 700 programs in the state of California alone. And when we look at states across the US, many states are also in launching dual immersion programs as well as expanding their dual immersion programs. There are 30 years of dual immersion programs in process, and just in California, again, alone, we're right under 700. This graphic is about a year old. So we've increased because of Prop 58, that many districts have increased their program opportunities for our students. Sorry. So just a little bit about our two-way dual immersion program that we launched in 2018-19 at Cyril's Elementary School. We started with 2 classrooms with 48 students. That was last year, based on community interest and support. This year we have 126 students ready to be dual citizens of language proficiency. And that's 5 classes. We expanded from TK all the way through 1st grade with the idea to add 2 classes every year. And the 3 goals of our two-way dual immersion are also the benefits of two-way immersion. When we think about supporting our students, not just to be bilingual, right? So a lot of us took language courses in order to be bilingual. We want our students and future leaders to be also biliterate. So that's one pillar or one strength of this program and the goal. And the other is that we want cross-culture appreciation and understanding. I think as diverse as our district is, that this is a great asset to the program. And third, that one we definitely care about is high academic achievement. So when we think about students in dual immersion program, there's been 28 years of research to support students that learn more than one language or hold more than one language, have high academic achievement, and typically outperform their peers. Okay. And in this district, as well as district across the state, when we think about our students in dual immersion programs, the pathway is to support them in obtaining the Seal by Literacy Award. This Seal by Literacy Award goes along with their high school diploma, and many universities started to accept the state Seal by Literacy and count them towards college credits. So when we think about promoting our students and going into college, they're going to be ahead by approximately 12 credits just by obtaining this seal. So again, when we think about that pathway for our students, that's a great opportunity for our students in the future. So a little bit about the Mandarin Immersion. This says, 我们爱学中文 means we love to learn Mandarin, okay? So the Mandarin program is one that's very popular in the Bay Area, that there are several programs out there with different models, and I had a great opportunity to visit many of them. And when I visit schools and districts, a lot of time is gathering what's really working for them and what are some typical challenges or pattern of challenges that they face that we can prepare for and plan for. So some of the challenges that are patterns across this state are teacher recruitment, finding enough teachers that hold the credential of Mandarin B-Clat credential to serve our students. The other is model. There are a lot of programs out there, either 50-50, 50% in English within the school day, 50% of Mandarin within a school day. There's 80-20 programs, there's 90-10 program, and there's the language balance program. So really trying to figure out the model of which percentage best serves our students long-term and language acquisition in 2 languages over time. That's been, there's a lot of research, but there's also a great challenge for districts to figure out. And of course, there's also the instructional materials. This, at this time, there's only one instructional curriculum that is aligned to our state Common Core standards. So the resources are pretty limited in Mandarin, but they're starting to develop quite a bit based on the popularity of the program across the Bay Area. And of course, it also depends on whether we would select to teach our students in the traditional language or the script. There's 2 different styles, and there's a lot of research. One neighboring district switched from traditional to script, because in recent research, that is the most utilized in the main state of China. So when we think about global job economy and where we want our students to have opportunities, we want to prepare them with the language that's gonna help them attain that, okay? And the last part is support. So when you start any new program, just like our 2-way dual immersion program for Spanish, I feel like one of the reasons that we obtain some success, and great success I like to say, is that we have the support of our community, our board members, and resources. We provide our teachers a lot of professional development, instructional materials, and we really engage our parents in community partnership and planning for student success. And within a year, we've had a lot of success in each of those areas. But that support piece is absolutely critical to the success of the program. So timeline, if we are thinking about launching a Mandarin dual immersion program for next school year, we should have started yesterday. So we have the goal. Thank goodness, we have the goal already in place from our Spanish dual immersion program, which really is those 3 areas of focus. And now we need to spend some time crafting a plan before we can take action. And of course, one of the first things that we would do is start recruiting teachers and reviewing curriculum, as well as visiting, again, some of those successful programs in the Bay Area to learn from those programs. And one of the last slides I prepared for you is planning costs. There is going to be some funding dedicated towards marketing and recruitment, getting the word out there. I could share with you that our neighboring districts have a wait list that they can't serve on an annual basis. So when we think about recruitment of new students into our district, that's a great opportunity. So some marketing and recruitment costs to that. And the majority of it is really for our teachers, to hire teachers, to provide our teachers training on how to deliver the best program for our students, and of course the instructional materials, what they're going to be using with their students. Okay, and this is just a quick overview of a possible program initiative, and right now I want to see if you have any questions for me.
Yeah, I'll open up the floor for any questions.
I don't have any questions.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
So can you go back, please?
Sure, which slide?
Here.
Here?
So you mentioned some of the things between literacy and script differences, methods or something like that. You
The
said.
writing, yes. There's two
One is the
styles of
traditional way
writing
of doing,
Chinese.
one is, so can you explain a little bit more about that? What
You want
we
me
are
to-
trying to implement, or in our mind, I mean, we are not implementing, it's in the planning to implement.
Right, right.
Traditional way of
There's two
traditional Chinese, or you said different script or something? What
Yes.
did you say?
There's two types of writing represented in Chinese language, and depending on the region. So let's say Taiwan and part of Singapore really uses the traditional writing style, which if we think about newspapers generated, what's taught in school years ago was traditional. In recent years, and mainly in the mainland of China, they use script writing, and that is what's become very popular. And when we think about the opportunities of where our future students will go for their job outlook, is really in China. So when we think about what type of writing exposure we want to provide our students, I would lean towards script, but we would also want to, again, have that larger discussion in our planning conversation.
Okay, so when you say script, so it still will be traditional Chinese letters? and
Yes,
things.
yes. So if
it
I,
will- the way I'm understanding, it's not going to be Roman script.
no, may I give an example? So if
Because
you go to-
sometimes, you know, the things that it's, in speaking it will be Chinese.
Do they call
but
it
in written
English, I think?
They will be
More in the traditional way to
Romanizing.
simplify.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the way I understand traditional will be, you know, the Chinese characters, or sometimes they don't have the characters, they have just the words.
Yes.
Is that the traditional or script? So,
So-
maybe later on
right.
today,
Is
I would
tradi-
like to understand the difference between the two
Right.
and
So-
how we move forward.
If I could provide just a quick example, if you go to Google Translate and you type in a word and you say, I want to translate it to
Into
Mandarin,
Chinese,
you could
Mandarin.
choose traditional or simplified.
I see.
So those are the two different types. And you can see the comparison. There's less strokes in simplified. So in terms of acquiring that writing, it's going to be a little bit easier for our students and quicker to retain.
I will do that test.
Yeah.
Okay, the other question I have, you mentioned the bilingual seal,
Yes. The state seal, yes.
state seal. Even if we don't have the dual immersion or dual language program, are there any alternative methods to earn that by state bilingual seal?
Absolutely. Currently, we do have students receiving the State Seal by Literacy Award at Logan. For the last 3 years, we give the AP assessment to our students, or we offer them in multiple languages. And students would take that language assessment in order to qualify for the State Seal by Literacy. If we have students coming from the pathway, typically they could take that AP assessment in middle school and acquire it there. And by the time they get to high school, the idea is that they hold that seal of biliteracy and they're really biliterate in both languages. They could be medical transcribers by the time they're in high school or not even in college. There are great opportunities for our students.
So, can you please, this is a request for myself, if we can, if you can provide us with how many languages we provide for the AP testing you mentioned for the seal, and what is the process to add another language if we need to?
Yes.
Please provide it to the board members. I'm just requesting this.
Okay.
More information about how we can add more languages.
So how many languages are
we
currently
provide
that are
them,
used
and
here?
then if we need to.
That would be a consensus item, so hold on to that and we'll come back to that. That's
So
not
why don't you
directly
bring it up
related
when
to
we
this.
have our consensus item?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go
Have
ahead.
any questions? Go ahead.
No, I don't have questions. I just have a couple of comments. Number one, and I'm very excited that we have the Mandarin dual immersion program. I remember that, and 2 years ago we started with the Spanish and the immersion program, and Linda and me, and we are sitting in the task force team, and
Right.
we just want you to know I'm going to continue to support this program. And and then number two, and we have the James Logan Mandarin teachers. Our modern teachers, Sarah Miss Du, and she did a wonderful job to teaching the Mandarin. And thank you, and thank you. I want to continue to help us.
Okay, did you have any more comments, Ms. Chima? You want to finish your thought before we move on?
Yeah, I had one more question from the slides, but at this time it does not come to my mind. Maybe I.
Yeah, let's move on to Member Canlis, and if it comes back, then we'll come back to you.
Just a clarifying question for me. I know that Fremont and Hayward have Mandarin programs, and
Correct.
they're overflowing.
Yes.
So my assumption is that we will be able to fill in how many classrooms, 2, 3, 4, when we start. What is your projections that might attract people to sign up for the program, and would that be in kindergarten and start in chunks, or?
The idea is that we would mirror our Spanish immersion program and start with 1 to 2 classes at a kindergarten level, but we would have to also assess how that recruitment process works out for us. You are right, Fremont and Hayward are the districts I had the great opportunity to visit, and both those principals have shared they still have a long waiting list of students with interest that they can't get in. And I had the opportunity also to visit the charter program UMing in Oakland, and they have some of our students.
That's my other question
Yes.
that's coming up. So we could
Yes.
bring those back if we have the program. My other question is regarding teacher recruitment. I know they also expressed that it's really hard to find local Mandarin teachers right here, and I know Hayward for a fact that they have actually gone to China to look for and recruit teachers.
Yes.
What is our vision regarding recruitment? How would that look like?
Well, we would advertise early before others. Oftentimes, they advertise for Mandarin Immersion teachers starting as early as January, and we want to be ahead of the game. We will work and partner with universities, and I think New Haven is a very desirable district to work in, and there are Mandarin teachers working in other programs at other districts that possibly may be interested. And we would also look at partnering with programs to look at teachers from outside the country as well. But that process is going to be lengthier in terms of visas and credentialing
Right.
that we would have to work out. So the recruitment process should start as soon as possible.
Thank you. Go back to the students. You said we will probably be mirroring our Spanish program right now.
Yes.
Does that also mean the number of beginning classes in some of the schools, but not all the schools?
Yes, we would have to go through the planning process and make some decision of which is the best elementary school to launch this program, just like we did with Spanish Immersion at Cyril's Elementary.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, Member Shima, did you get your thoughts?
So, yeah, if you go to the cost slide.
Yes.
So, where will all that funding be coming? Are we going to tap the general fund, or how does that, how will this work?
I can address that. For this program, obviously, we would want to accommodate all of our students internally, which would mean that would be more or less cost neutral because a student would just be moving from one site to another. But in this scenario, after the research we has done, I'm very optimistic that we could bring in a number of students from outside the district. And remember, for about every 10 to 12 students, that pays for the cost of a teacher. So if we were able to bring in, say, 20 students from outside the district, you've pretty much just paid for the program with new ADA coming into the district. That's one of the hopes. Again, we want to make sure we meet the needs of all of our students within our boundaries first, but it looks like we would be able to easily attract students from out of the areas, which could make this relatively cost neutral.
Okay, then did we see any increase in enrollment or any impact on our enrollment with the Spanish dual language program?
I don't have those numbers off. I don't know if you've seen, I don't know if you can answer that now.
What was can you repeat your question, please?
Has our two-way bilingual Spanish program increased enrollment in the district or at the school, I guess?
Yeah, was there any impact? An increasing or retaining or?
It has increased. We have currently 12 this year, 12 new students out of the district that applied to be in our Spanish dual immersion program. We do have a waiting list in the program because and in fact, our kinder teachers accepted a couple of more students in the program because we want to make sure that we build capacity over time, especially if our students are transient and they move. We want to make sure we keep those numbers, but we have great interest, and this year we have a waiting list in each grade level.
Thank you for clarifying. The reason I have asked about this cost, because during the bad days when we were thinking about cutting some budget items, and one of the items in the list was $460K for the dual immersion and Spanish language program. So it gave the appearance that if that program will be cut to save the money. So now we know it's cost neutral, which is good to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Wong.
Okay, I have more an auntie here. So, and this program, and I'm a Chinese, and so I pretty much know the Chinese communities, and the demanding is very high, like Fremont School District and Haywood and Richmond and Sunnyvale, and the demanding is very high. So if we have succeeded to do this program, we can attract many students to a school district. So I would suggest, they want to also get the support from the teachers union as well, because in order to do this program, we need to invest money. We need to invest money to make money. So in this case, first of all, we need to invest the teachers. But this is not like a Spanish immersion program. We do not have Mandarin teachers in the school district. Before we have a program started, we should maybe open hire them first, not waiting for the last minute. I hopefully everybody will agree with that. Yeah.
She said she will publish early.
And I could address that too. Our plan, based on WE's research, is that we're planning on moving forward, and we just wanted to let you know now. But my plan would be, unless we hear something otherwise, we could ask Derek to put out a posting for this as early as Thursday. So, we want to go. We really think this is a huge benefit for our children. We think it'll attract people to our district and give us one more feather on our cap in terms of the types of programs that we're offering our community.
Thank you.
So, one more question. I don't know if I have overlooked in the presentation. Do we have any possible site to start this program, implement this program? Is Guy Manuel?
I can. Yeah, I can address that too. We're looking at this as a program that could take up to 12 plus classrooms once it's grown out fully. So we'll be looking at all of our sites. We have not, don't have a recommendation at this point, but it's certainly going to have to be a site that has the capacity to really have a full-scale program over time. We don't want to start at one place and then have to move it or displace teachers if we can avoid that. So that'll be a factor in this. Transportation corridors, things like that. We'll be looking at all of that. But we should have that. Our most immediate need is to recruit and to give designate some funds for to start getting the materials. But I really am very optimistic based on where we're at now that we'll be able to open 2 classes, possibly with even people, maybe even more people wanting to get in. And that's where I think we're at now. So that we can do the site selection a little bit down the line. We'll talk with our teachers union and other groups too to let them know what we're thinking. But space is going to be a big driver in that decision.
I see. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have just a couple of comments and questions. So I think you kind of touched upon, some of us here have touched upon the need, right? So is it the need of our students or is it the need to meet the competition? I mean, of course, we would love to get students in from other districts, but do we have interest built in from our own district?
We do.
Considering the population, considering the interest of that population.
We do. One example of that interest is that our families are leaving us because we don't have that program, honestly. So, and the other is that one of the phone calls that we get when they inquire about our dual immersion program always is, we know you have Spanish, when will you offer Mandarin as well? So we know during that enrollment times, that's the #1 call I get about dual immersion programs. And I answer every one of those calls.
And you also mentioned that we have additional 12 students in the dual Spanish program?
From outside of the district.
From outside, okay. And I
Yes.
know that we placed it strategically where we could balance out the east and the west, right?
Correct.
So did we see any movements for that program from
Not so
the
much last
inter-district?
year,
Okay.
this year.
Okay.
Absolutely. We have students that reside in every elementary school attending our dual immersion program. So we have students that reside in the Eastern neighborhood, Pioneer, all of the neighborhoods that are currently enrolled at Cyril's Elementary for the program.
Thank you. And I think what we have to do is be strategic about where this program will be placed, just so we could be,
Balance.
Yeah.
balance out the
Student
enrollment
population,
in our elementary schools. I mean, I love the idea. I have nieces who actually live in China, and they will turn heads because you'll see half Indian, half white girls, turning around speaking in Mandarin. I have a 4-year-old niece and a 6-year-old fluent in Mandarin. So I think, and I'm a believer that if you can start them early on any language, more the better. By the time you get to high school, there is no way you can retain anything.
Yes.
I took 3 years of Spanish, and I probably cannot carry on a conversation or even a sentence. So I'm excited about the program, but I do like to know, what model does our Spanish program follow? Is it 50-50, 90-10? What's the model there that you would like to mirror?
80-20.
80-20.
80-20.
80% English, 20% English?
Yes.
Spanish?
Spanish. Excuse me.
It is
Spanish
Spanish,
is the target language at 80%
Got
and
it.
20 is in English. And the reason is not at 90-10 is because our students attend a specialist time with music, science, and so forth. So that's also their English time.
And what are the neighboring districts using as a model for the Mandarin program? Is it also 80-20?
It's 90-10 or 50-50.
Okay.
So,
Can I ask a quick question? So
yeah.
you may or may not have this information, but even like any gleanings that you might have would be useful. You had mentioned that that we're losing students because of the lack of. Would you have any idea on an estimate about how many of the students are leaving our district because we lack?
No,
the
I
program?
don't, because sometimes they leave us before they're kinder ready. So we don't have that data. They don't usually enroll in our district and then leave for another program.
I see. They just
start
don't
the
enroll.
program at the kinder level. So oftentimes we don't have that information, but I know Mr. Lamb from enrollment has some information about when they fill out transfers to other districts. So we could get that information for you.
Okay, maybe we'll bring that to consensus.
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
Go.
Go ahead, Ms.
I just
Carter.
want to ask a related question regarding the percentage. Does that change, the 80-20, does that change as they progress to a higher grade level?
Yes.
It does, after second grade. So we would stay at 80, in our Spanish model right now is 80-20 until third grade. Then we go 70-30. Until fifth grade, we're at 50-50. And then it's 2 courses at our middle school.
Oh, so that's with the assumption that by the time they get in 5th grade, they're more or less proficient on both languages?
Mhm.
Yes,
Thank you.
sure.
Okay, and lastly,
I
go
still
ahead,
have it.
Ms. Tima first.
So the program can be started as little as how many kids? Or if we want to introduce any other language, for example, because community has been asking about it.
So how many students?
We
and-
have to have in place to sustain the program, to start the program.
Right now is 24 at TK or kinder,
I see.
just like any other TK or kinder class.
I see. Thank
We
you.
hold to the same numbers.
Yeah, I'm also a big believer in learning multiple languages. So we learn in India, all schools, public schools, they have to learn 3 languages by law because we are such a big country. We have state province language, and then we have a national language, and then we have international language. So there is no question of asking that one language or whatever. So more you learn it early on, more your brain adapts to it. So I'm also a big believer in that. Thank you so much for taking the initiative.
And I just have a last comment. So these programs or this particular program is going to be for brand new TK or kinder. We're not going to be able to enroll a 2nd grader who wants to be part of this program. So
No, we need
okay.
to develop that language proficiency at that age level.
even if they are fluent or have enough language proficiency based on home speaking, will they be able to join at any point?
Yes,
Okay.
so in our Spanish dual immersion class, the nicest grade levels for students to immerse in the language is at kinder or the latest 1st grade. If we have students that are enrolling in, let's say next year when we have a 2nd grade program, and they're enrolling into our district from a neighboring district in which they were in a dual immersion program, then they hold that primary as their primary language, then they would be a nice fit into our program. But typically kinder and 1st is where the research says that they retain and acquire that language the best long term.
Thank you. No further questions.
I
You have
just
more
want to add
questions?
to that. So if you have a student who is already registered in Hayward or Fremont on similar program, it's okay for them.
Yes,
Transfer.
And also if they had it as a primary language.
correct.
But they can't if let's say Joanna just wanted to be, and Joanna's a 2nd grade, and she wanted to learn, she cannot enter. I just want to clarify that.
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Moving on to the next item, items from the board and superintendent. We'll start with our student board member.
Okay. For Logan, nothing is really happening. We've just been preparing for homecoming, which is our homecoming game is on October 18. And then within ASB, I know our ASB president has been working with Joe Angeles and the Oakland Unified School District about spreading environmental awareness. And they're also working with ASB president's nonprofit called Soul to Soul. It's kind of like a joint thing. And then Logan will also be in
Is over. It was kind of been going on on our brain for some time. So I'm glad that there was not a big kind of controversy or anything. I was able to participate in some of the community events, and I do believe in as part of our being an elected official or being a leader in the community, so we need to be active in the community in the socially pressing issues. So that is my reasoning to participate in many of the community events, and also students, they see us as participating in those events and they become motivated. So it kind of attracts their attention. With that said, I was able to join a musical session it was wonderful and therapeutic for our special education students. It's through the Alameda County, and I'm glad they're working with our New Haven Unified School District. Also, congratulations to our new superintendent, and we attended the welcoming luncheon for our city manager and our Dr. Thompson. Thank you for sharing your vision, and hopefully our community will see the action soon. And then I attended the Mission Valley ROP meeting, and there are a lot of things going on. We recently hired last year our CBO, and now CBO has accepted another position in Newark Unified School District. Good thing is that she's not too far out, and then she will be kind of helping us with the transition with hiring the new CBO. There's a lot of work going on there as well. On September 21st, I want to mention the date because it's UN declared International Peace Day. There is a Tri-City Interfaith Coalition Council. They have monthly meetings, so they celebrate it. And many of our students from IVC, they participated and performed the prayers. I was kind of so impressed. So it's good. It happens on the Lake Elizabeth. And also, I attended a rally for climate action on September 26th in Fremont, and many of the students from Fremont High School, they joined us. I was expecting some participation from our James Logan High School. I don't know, for some reason, because our students, they're very active in these kind of initiatives. Hopefully, if you can take the message to the James Logan High School student body, and they have this kind of similar pressing issues like gun violence, climate action, those rallies every fourth Thursday of the month in Fremont. You can join those rallies to kind of create awareness in the community. That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, Member Canlis.
Thank you so much. Just a reminder, October 5th, that Saturday, is Mutt Strut for the foundation. Also, October 19th, Saturday, is the gala. That's one of the highest money earning time for the foundation, so it's so important for us to support them because all the funds go back to our students and to our teachers in the classroom. October 17 is AXPA meeting, and the guest speakers include CSBA Political Director Brian LeBlanc. It's important for us to know what is going on and hear what that is so that we will know what we could be actively engaged in. I think the time when we have to wait for something to happen is over. We need to really be part of it to make things happen and know what is going on, and so that we will know our next steps. I highly encourage my peers or colleagues here to come and attend that. I know one of you already said he will be coming. We also have Casey Farmer from the Alameda County Complete Count Committee for Census 2020. She will be also be discussing how that impacts our schools and how we could help in supporting the census. In addition, we have Safety and Public Health Director regarding 2P. His name is Gilbert Gerber, Director of 2P from Alameda County, and as you know, there's a lot of conversations regarding the dangers of tobacco. So it's probably a good idea for us to know what is going on and how we could implement certain steps in our districts to help our students from becoming addicted to such a problem. Tonight, as we speak, there is another town hall going on somewhere in this district, Logan, with Congressman Swalwell. So I don't know how many people are there right now, but we're all over here. So Ms. Valdez doesn't have her crystal ball, and she could not tell me.
It's about 300.
300.
Really? Wow.
400?
Standing room only, apparently.
Oh my gosh.
No wonder why
hope-
nobody's here, I guess. Jeez,
I hope they're videotaping.
What are we?
Thank you for keeping us company.
I hope they're
you, guys, yeah.
videotaping so we can see. And I hope our students are there, because I know this is a very active group of students the last few years, and they are civically engaged and asking questions, because this is a great opportunity to send our message to Washington. We have someone right here on our fingertips, and actually let them know what the pulse of the community. That's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you. The only thing that I have is tomorrow evening, we have the very first Punjabi Parent Advisory Group meeting here at 6 p.m. So if anyone is interested, board members are welcome to come as well. At 6 p.m. here in this boardroom. And I think superintendent might be joining for the first half hour.
will.
So that is all I have, and I'll open it up to you now.
Okay, just a couple quick things. The first phase of our district goal process has been completed. The superintendent survey is closed, and I'm done gathering data. We've had over 500 responses to the survey, and then I've had, I don't know, dozens and dozens and dozens of meetings with folks that are also informing the process. Now is the data analysis part of it that comes in, and I'll be posting information on the website and sending it out so people can see where we're at in the process. Enrollment, we have CBEDs coming up very quickly. Where we'll know our exact enrollment, but it looks like we're going to be pretty close to what Chief Business Official Heldman projected, about 300 down. Maybe a little better than that, but we'll know for sure at our next meeting. And lastly, I'd like to give out a couple of thank yous. Thank you, Scott, and your team, we in particular, for developing the Mandarin proposal. It took a lot of work, and we are very excited about moving forward with that. So I think we're well positioned to do that. I'd also like to thank NHTA. I've been working with them a lot. They've been helping me understand a lot of different components of our district, and I appreciate the time that they've been generous to give me, often outside of their normal workday. So thank you for that. That's it.
Thank you. Moving on to the board committee reports, we have 9.1 report from the Budget and Finance Committee. Do you guys have anything to report out? And this is just for everyone's knowledge. Member Chima and Member Canlis, and then the alternate is Member Wong.
Yes.
Yeah. We had our first meeting on September 19th, and at that meeting, Ms. Heldman discussed our budget, showing where we are and where we could be in the next 3 years if we did nothing. And then she did she showed us what we could possibly do if we do something and eliminate possible deficits. I left at that point, so I don't know what had happened after I left. Mr. Wang was there when I left. So was there something else?
Okay, I did not prepare for report and the superintendent, you have calculated report.
Sure, I can help. The next step is we're hoping to bring a budget presentation to the board on the 15th of October, and I'm hoping to share more information with both of our bargaining units, CSEA and NHTA, prior to that, to kind of give an update of where we're at, and more importantly, as we're moving forward on the 15th, we're hoping to have a plan for a budget development plan that will include opportunities for our different stakeholders, our bargaining units and parent groups and whatnot, to provide some impact and input on that. So that will be coming to the 15th, and I can't remember when our next meeting is.
The 8th, I think.
The 8th, that's
Yeah.
right. So we'll have
Yes.
one more opportunity to meet before the
Yeah.
15th to kind of go over that
Yeah.
information.
Can I add one more thing? I want to thank the people who actually did come and ask a lot of questions and clarify our roles, which was really important. I think it's good for people to know what is going on and understand our budget from the beginning, so that we could all say and are clear of the same thing. So I want to thank them. them for being there and asking questions and understand what is going on step by step.
I had a conflict with my Mission Valley ROP meeting. I could not attend it. I would appreciate that if you have how many people from the community members, if you have any idea about how many they have come to join us. Do you have any
How
idea?
many people came?
I don't know, about 6?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We
then
have students, we have some teachers, and
Yeah.
yeah.
we probably have a total of maybe 12 people, 13 people, including us.
Yeah.
Okay, so next is an ask. Because we have this item on the agenda at this time. I know we have had a separate meeting, and I believe that is not part of the regular meeting we have, but we did have the agenda. So is there any way if we can insert that small agenda item or maybe a small kind of recap from that meeting here when we report out? Is it possible?
I'm not sure what you're asking,
I
actually.
think she's asking if
A
we can
summary.
have a summary or some
Yes.
sort of document that could be attached to these for overview.
Remember, we
it's-
already
it's
have
on our
that.
It's on the
Website.
website,
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
If you go to our website under school board, under board committees, you'll see the agenda and a summary of the meeting for the budget finance
I
committee
see.
meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
They have the minutes.
Yeah, we'll have one there soon for the committee. I didn't put the one up yet for the.
Yeah.
for
What were you
But-
asking
but-
to
but-
attach it?
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, because sometimes people, they don't go to the individual those things because it's on the agenda, and if we can just have that attachment here.
We'll have to look into that.
Okay, just take a look if it's possible. So more people can access it, you know.
Anything
that's
But,
all.
but anyway,
Yeah,
that's
that's it.
very
Thank
good.
you.
Yeah, so meeting is very succeeded, and at least there's lots of informations and be answered. Yes, I'm glad that you can have put the summary is in there, so and later we can share to look at this. Same as the communication committees, right? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. So the next one is a report out from the Communication and Advocacy, on which Member Nishihara and myself sit, and with Member Wong as the alternate. And Member Nishihara will be doing a presentation on as to what we went over in that meeting.
See, that's what I mean,
Wow.
what you did. And
That's
we should
what's-
have something like that in our budget committee as well.
Okay, so Madam President, members of the board, superintendent, folks in the gallery, thanks for letting me read out on our previous meeting. So meeting recap, the city of Union City, who we're expecting to have talk to us, had to reschedule, but we were able to make a really productive meeting nonetheless. We drafted and we finalized the committee structure and our purpose. We drafted principles related to communication and communication infrastructure. We reviewed, discussed questions about communication technology currently in place in the district. That was a really great conversation. And we scheduled our next meeting, and we determined the next steps for future sessions. We identified the committee structure. I will be the chair. President Kaur will be the vice chair. Superintendent Frank DeLapo and John Matos, our staff member representations, they were there. I also want to thank community member Aaron Tooley for his feedback as well. So as a matter of process, we identified our committee's purpose, which was set forth by board action on August 20th. The purpose of this committee is to create recommendations that drive the district's communication, outreach, engagement, and advocacy efforts. Okay, problem statement. One of the things that we wanted to identify and come to an agreement is what is the thing that we want to focus on. And without getting into too much detail, currently communication between the district, board, parents, students, and the community is fragmented and uncoordinated. In addition, the district does not have a strategic marketing, public relations, community engagement, and or advocacy plan. One of the meatiest part of the conversation was really around communication. What does good communication look like? And so we identified some principles that we'll go over right now to help identify and help us make decisions about technology as well as process. So all communication should be integrated and focused. We should have as few channels and moving parts as possible, and those channels should be coordinated. They should also be reliable and official. There should be a single source of truth for accurate information regarding the district. They should also be proactive. Communication should be where our community already is. People shouldn't have to come to our website or to our site administration to ask them for information. We know that people communicate out there in the community. We want to go where they are. Impactful and timely. We should have as few channels that we do have should have broad reach and are highly impactful and targeted. They should also be strategic and professional. All communication should be well designed, expertly crafted, purposely targeted, accurate, visually engaging, and consistent. They should be adaptive and responsive. Our channels should be able to respond to conversations in the community and adapt to changes in community. Today it's Twitter. Who knows what it's going to be in 6 or 7 years? But our platforms and our systems should be able to adapt to that. Our next steps are going to be Linda Sagayan from the city will be coming at an upcoming meeting to talk about their journey in putting together a communication strategy. We're going to be reviewing existing communication landscapes and tools. We're going to continue to focus on rationalizing existing communication infrastructure. We're going to refine communication principles if needed. We'll continue to discover and document parent and student-centric communication needs, as well as teacher-centric. We're also going to have Ed Leo come in. Ed Leo is the provider of our website, and they're going to ask some questions that the committee has offered up to the technology department, and they might be able to answer them a little bit more pointedly. And we also want to share experiences from other organizations that have had similar needs and similar struggles. So we're really in the point of definition and identifying some strategies and pillars for long-term growth. Our next meeting is on October 17th from 4 to 6 here in this room, actually. So, thank you. Actually, are there any questions?
Excellent job.
Oh,
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's what I was kind of, talking about, that we need to have something in this board meeting so that we present what we did.
Okay.
Well, I
Uh,
mean, I don't think it's an issue if you guys.
Yeah,
this
it's
is
not an
something that
issue.
we-
I know. I was not present at the time, but it's never late.
Yeah.
So we will
It's
start
an extra
capturing
time
these.
out,
Yeah.
if it's an
Yeah,
extra
yeah.
time out of your
Yes.
work that you would have to compile.
Yeah, it's
presentation.
an
I mean,
extra work.
hopefully
I
I
it's
know
had,
not
I had to
like-
work
like
late a
the-
couple days to make up for it, but it's
Yeah.
all right.
Right.
And
Thank
you
you so
did not
much.
get paid
Really
overtime.
appreciate that.
That's right.
Very good, thank
So
you.
Linda, are you up to this?
I think you're volunteering as well.
We'll talk about it within the committee.
I did that. I don't mind.
But
Yeah.
the key principle is quick.
Yeah.
It's fast.
Yeah.
The superintendent said that we should make it really quick and to the point. So.
Yeah. We don't want to get.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Member
Good
Nishihara.
job.
That was well done. Yeah, so that kind of covers our, it was a very productive meeting, and I think as a result, we saw what came out as our new and great-looking newsletter. So that's,
A quick question. Did we have guests?
we
From
did.
the-
We actually had Aaron Tooley, who was one of our parent member who was there. Yeah,
Very
and he
good.
sat through the whole meeting.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So moving on to the next item, are there any speakers on topics not on the agenda?
No, we have no speaker cards.
Okay. Are there any speakers on topics on the agenda?
Nope, no speaker cards.
Okay, wonderful. Moving on to the next item, it's the action item. It's 12.1, approval fiscal crisis and management assistance team, FICMAT, draft study agreement with NHUSD. Anyone has any questions or would like to engage in a discussion on this matter?
Well, I'm just putting it out there. I'm operating from the assumption that even though it's expensive, we will make up the money to a point where we will actually save money in the future.
And
it's okay with, we'll discuss it with CSEA and NHDA that it is not
I've
impacting
run
in a
this by
negative
both
way.
of them.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, I just have the same comment that it's an investment to capture hopefully a bigger saving later on.
Okay. And do we know the timeline for the FICMAT to do their investigation? 'Cause I think it's fairly lengthy, if I'm not
It'll
mistaken.
take them probably 4 to 6 weeks to do it from start to finish, and then we're hoping to have all of their recommendations in place prior to the budget, the real meaty part of our budget development process for the next year.
And also, if I may ask, I know at one point we said this was a self-sustained program, and then somewhere along the line, it no longer was. Do we have a reason to believe that something transpired between then to now to really feel that there's money or there's some things that we could be looking at differently with a different lens?
To simply put it, it looks like compared to other districts, our staffing ratio is out of alignment with other districts that run their programs at a fiscally neutral, in a fiscally neutral manner. So that's why we really need FCMAT to come in and help us figure out where we can better align our staffing needs, and perhaps even in the revenue generation side and all of that. They'll come in and help us with all of that.
Okay.
But that's what it looks like. Just at Annette, you can tell me, help me if I'm, but I think that's pretty much on paper what it looks like. Yep.
If you have anything to add to that, the comment that Dr. Thompson just made.
I was looking at the finances, and there are a lot of factors that add to it. Dr. Thompson said one of the biggest factor that's adding to it. I don't know if you recall, but a couple of years ago, there was a very comprehensive audit of that program. And prior to that, the program actually was sitting in a positive ending balance. There was a big chunk to the tune of about $600,000 as a finding from that audit that actually had to be, that were essentially were not authorized, and therefore it ate up that ending balance over time because of that big audit. So that's one of the reasons for it. The staffing ratio is certainly something that we look forward to looking into from experts out there in the field to look at it, because they have access to other districts' information. And of course, the fact of the matter is, in the last 5 years, we have given to that unit, because the employees or the staff that are in that unit are classified employees. And over the last 5 years, that's a 20% ongoing settlement or increases. So it's a lot of those put together. And therefore, this study, we hope for it to guide us in terms of how to, make this perhaps not totally self-sustainable, but certainly we want to have the comfort level that we are running in the most effective and the most efficient way that we can.
Okay. So it sounds like we're optimistic that FCMAT will be able to come back and say, okay, make these changes, and we'll be able to save $500,000.
Would save at least, $500,000 would be great.
Being
we'll
That's reasonable. That's reasonable.
certainly, I think we should be able to recoup savings more than $27,000 on our initial one-time investment. It seems like a reasonable thing,
So
and
that-
hopefully a lot more than that.
Okay, fair enough. And is that 27 coming out of our general funds, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it says here.
Well, since it's an encroaching program, it
Yeah.
will ultimately hit the general fund.
Yep. And that's where the savings would come from as well.
Okay, and then whatever we find from the FCMAC's report, when would it be implemented? Does that get implemented right away? At what point do we see the implementation take effect?
Yeah, it really depends on the recommendations. Some
Right.
things might be able to be done right away. Other things might be have to be done over time.
Transition, yeah.
There may be some negotiable components to it as well
Mhm.
with CSEA, so we'll have to work through all of that. We'll see what they come up with.
It will all depend on the findings and
Yep.
the recommendations.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Haldeman. Any other questions or comments on this? Okay, with that, may I have a motion and a second to approve the Fiscal Crisis and Management Assistance Team FCMAT draft study agreement with NHUSD?
I move.
I'm second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda items. Are there any items the members need clarification or have questions on, or would like to have pulled for a separate vote?
None?
None.
Okay,
None.
I have,
Okay.
it's just
Member
comments,
Chima, yes.
nothing to hold for the separate vote. Just a comment or a question, you can say for 13.7 and 8, there are two approvals of MOUs with the private licensed speech language and special education kid. So I was reading into the summary, and then I realized that if the parents, they have an insurance policy, it could be covered, these services could be covered in their insurance policy. So I am assuming that our staff have done the due diligence to check that with the parents, then they don't have, so that we can save some costs.
We have.
Okay, thank you.
Is that for both of them? Your
Yeah,
comment?
yeah, both
Okay.
of them, you're right. And then for 13.9, it looks like a good program, and then I was wondering if, or when we implement that, how many students potentially will benefit from this MOU, and if I would like to see their program or curriculum, how does that work?
I'll have to ask
Scott.
our assistant, our chief academic officer to address that.
Good evening, Ms. Chima. This program is for students who are identified as is described in the summary, for students who may have had some challenges with law enforcement in the past, to be able to create a stronger bonding relationship with students who may have been arrested or on juvenile probation, and to be able to create an opportunity to build relationships and engage in exchanges that will help to grow that relationship in a positive school setting. Again, once we make this agreement, we'll be determining the exact number of students depending upon the enrollment. This is a free association that we're attempting to bring into our district to serve these students in this population.
No, I appreciate that. This is a good service. I looked into the summary, and I was just, whenever you have that information available, please pass it on to. I'm
Sure.
interested in finding out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other agenda items for question? Okay, well, that in mind, may I have a motion and a second to approve consent agenda items 3.1 to 3.19?
I move.
Second.
Discussion.
None.
Roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Aye. All right, moving on to the board consensus. I don't know if you have any updates on the last two that we've had put on the list, and I believe there might be another one from Member Chima, as we discussed
Yeah.
earlier. But if you have any,
Yeah, the update, so we have a site visit next week to go look at the bathrooms over at Logan and look at how we're going to get the signage for that coming up. So that'll be fun. Always fun to look at high school bathrooms, right? So, yeah. No.
Fun.
Uh,
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Member Chima, do you want to bring up your request that you had earlier for the consensus?
I know John knows about it, I think.
But we still have to take consensus.
Right, right.
Right, so I'm unclear exactly on the language item that you're for consensus. Is that what we're asking? And there was something about.
I was asking some questions. I know in the bilingual program, and then you said it will be part of the consent.
Okay.
I forgot it now, but was the actual question.
Okay, that's okay. And then Lance, I don't know if you had the
Yeah, the question was if we could figure out or at least estimate how many students we're losing from our district
From interns out.
because we lack the Mandarin Immersion program.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So I think, Member Chima, your question was around the AP classes, right?
Right,
So
right.
how many
Yes.
classes, AP test?
How
exactly.
many languages we currently
In AP
For the
class.
we allow them or
Yeah,
they're
for SEAL.
available? And what is the process to add a new language if we want to?
Okay.
Okay. So the question is, how many languages is the biodiversity seal offered into? I have no idea. We'll have to look into
Yeah,
that.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
They
So
can
I think-
provide us,
Okay.
yeah.
So is that something the board would like to entertain?
Is a-
Can I get a motion and a second on that?
or just or even it's not an action item, just not.
What is
What's the
motion?
outcome?
Okay,
Well,
What's
Is
the
this-
outcome is you
Could you-
asking for?
if she wants to add another language to that seal, how would she go about doing that?
The process, what is the process?
Is
to
that
add this?
something
Yeah.
the board feels we should get information on? I'm on board for that.
Okay, I think we should talk about the demands and the high school, the ability to add in the new AP class, right? Language class.
No, it's not a class.
I think
It's just the
So
AP test.
Just
Test.
AP test,
If
right?
somebody has the language proficiency
Okay.
already, and they can just simply challenge the test or take the test and
I
then.
think
Okay, I will ask
I
the
think we're talking about
superintendent
two
the
different
question.
things.
right. I thought
I
your
will ask the
question.
superintendent a question. Even when
So-
you offer the class and we just adding the AP test, they should not cost too much, not too
Actually,
difficult,
can we
right?
have
Yeah.
Member Chima clarify her question
Yeah.
first, and then
Yeah.
we can ask?
Yeah.
There's two different
That's
things we're
something.
kicking around.
So my question was that how many languages currently we offer the AP testing for?
Okay.
That's number one. And number two, if we want to add another language, to challenge or take the AP exam test, AP exam, then what is the process to get that added to that list?
Okay. So the AP courses are, it's not just an exam you have to take, it's a link to a course. And that's something that would have to go through the course development process and then come to the board for approval. So that's a pretty significant process to do. We can do it. I don't know what options are out there. So there's two parts to the question. What AP exams do we offer in which languages, and then how do you add another one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I answered the second part. The first part is we can get that answer, but it would have to be with any new course. There's a whole process that we go through that ultimately ends up with board approval for any new course. And AP courses, it's not just an exam. There's a course linked to it.
So you're saying, currently, as I understand, there are like 6 or 7 languages we teach at James Logan High School.
Yeah, I'd have to look into that.
So
yeah.
all of them, they have access, if they want to take the AP exam.
I don't know
that
that we
language.
have AP exams for all of the languages.
That's what my question is.
Okay.
That do we have the AP exams available for all those languages?
I don't know the answer. We'll have to look.
Okay, yeah.
So that's what she's asking, if we can have some report back on.
Yeah, that we can do. We can figure that out.
Okay, I mean, well, add on this question is not just the languages. Some courses, AP courses, were not in here. For example, like Europe history. We're not teaching the James Logan High School. Can the student take the AP exam?
Without taking the course.
Without taking the course.
Not taking course, just take the in the May, they just take the final exam.
Okay.
They just
I
challenge
was
it.
thinking we should offer
Yeah.
students this opportunity.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. You know what? Just for the sake of argument here, what we'll do is we'll give you a board communication on AP exams. How's that? And we'll do that. We'll send it out to all of you. We'll give you the update on all of this information. For the sake of saving everybody time, why don't we do that? So we will. That's a consensus item. I think I know what we need.
Okay.
Got
Are
it.
there any others?
Okay.
I have something need to add on to request, and yeah, Superintendent, I need to ask you to request some things. And recently, and we know the city of the Union City and their computer system may be attacked. They have attacked the virus, and we still don't know what happened. They're not fixed yet.
Yeah.
And I just wondering, and can you provide some information regarding our process and the procedure, how to protect the plan? That's number one. Number two, and I have more and more parents to talk about the cybersecurity, because we know that each student have the Chromebook. Okay, so what kind of policies and what kind of the procedure and we're doing to prevent the concerned students, the safety, the children's safety? And if you have those kind of programs, and I'd like to review it and to understand.
Okay, so 2 parts to that, 2 different things. First, the city isn't ready. They don't even know exactly what has happened to them yet.
Yes.
I met with the city manager last week, and when they have figured out exactly what's going on, they're going to meet with our staff so we can take a look at that. But I don't have an answer for you. But we'll send something out once we figure out what that is. So we're already planning on doing that. And then the second piece is we have our own, you're asking about our own internal cybersecurity systems and what we have in place.
Yeah.
Okay, is that something the board wants us to send an update about? Is that, if we have consensus on that, we'll add that to the list.
Can you t-shirt size that for us? Big, medium, small? Is it a big ask, you think?
I don't know.
Okay.
Shouldn't be too hard to just give you a summary of what we have.
All right.
Okay, yeah.
I think if it's just a summary, then you can probably send that in on a BC
Yeah,
as
in a
well.
BC.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's certainly a matter of interest on all of us. I learned that actually the city has insurance, cyber hack security. It's called Blackwater or Black. No, that's something else.
So
Black
I think we have. I just want to see how good it is.
Yeah, we'll give you an update on our security systems. It's something that Frank is very interested in, obviously. And once we hear what happened with the city, we'll know a little bit more about if anything that affected them could affect us too.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Well, thank you. With no further business before the board, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.